Pukeology Podcast, where science meets your hilarious puke stories and the tips and tricks to stop that up chuckle that you need.
You never know what's going to spew out of her mouth. Here's
my mama,
Dr. Pukeology.
So you took a pregnancy test and you got 2 lines? So what does that mean? And can I even trust that this little plastic pregnancy test? Instead of reading that huge instruction manual on the inside of the box, let me, your favorite pregnancy specialist doctor, walk you through the truth behind pregnancy tests in today's Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, episode 64, How Accurate Are Pregnancy Tests? Want no more morning sickness, pregnancy nausea, or how about no more headaches or migraines? Visit our sponsor, nomonausea.com, the only natural way to instantly stop your worst nausea, vomiting, or headaches now, and get 25% off with the code PUKE25. That's PUKE 25. Or just place No More Nausea Band on your registry for your delivery room bag at Bye Bye Baby, or get it shipped for free in just 2 days on Amazon as a Prime vendor. And know your little ones are always taken care of with the first No More Nausea Kids and No More Sleepless Nights Kids wristbands, which works on moms too that have small wrists. And if you just want to get a good night's sleep, stop at your local CVS store. You're going to hear some pregnancy humor that may just make you want to pee your pants. Like you don't have to pee all the time anyway, with hilarious stories like sneeze, my back out, no pain, no gain, and salt and pepper. So if you want to learn more about your pregnancy, humor and knowledge is the key to help you survive these 9 months. And just know we're in this together. Today, you'll learn the science behind pregnancy tests and from how are pregnancy tests actually working, their accuracy, and what to do if you get a positive or negative test. It might surprise you the amount of time you should wait before taking another one. And if you're trying to have a baby, here are 3 natural ways to make sure you have a boy or a girl. And hint, ladies, your husband will actually be helping you out on this one. So stay tuned for all this and more on Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, episode 63, Pregnancy Test Questions Finally Answered.
The science of puke, Pukeology.
The age-old question is, how accurate are pregnancy tests? So some of the pregnancy tests we're going to be talking and exploring are like first response, clear, blue, easy. You hear all of them. Which one's better and why? Well, if you've just missed your period, or again, you tried a pregnancy test just to see because your period doesn't necessarily lie, but sometimes you can actually be spotting. So whether or not you're excited about it, which you're trying, or whether or not you're a little hesitant because you're not necessarily sure if you're pregnant or not, then first response pregnancy test is a really good one to choose from. You can try any of them, but we're going to talk about why and what's considered early detection, okay? So the earlier that you know that you're pregnant, the better, because of better prenatal care. So we do have different prenatal vitamins that most of us doctors will recommend. And again, if you are learning or wanting to know more about which pregnancy prenatal vitamins that you should be taking, we actually have an entire podcast dedicated to it. It's called episode 3, Why Take Prenatal Vitamins? So we kind of break through, or I do, break through a whole bunch of different entities as to what is actually important when you are conceiving and what is it that the babies need for nutrients. Early detection of pregnancy also helps you to make better health choices, such as eating, which we just talked about, a healthy pregnancy diet, doing moderate exercise, and avoiding the things that interfere with your baby's growth, like alcohol and smoking, things of that nature. Besides, early detection boosts your baby's survival rate, and they've actually found when ACOG, which is a national association for obstetrics and gynecology, they found that earlier detection, better prenatal care equals healthier babies in the end. And don't we all moms want a nice, healthy, amazing baby? So let's get into it. So how do these pregnancy tests work? Well, regardless of what name brand you see on the box, they all work the exact same way. When you conceive, your body starts to produce a hormone called human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. It's shortened as HCG. Whew, that's like a mouthful. So I'm glad we're just going to shorten it to HCG this whole time. The levels of HCG tend to increase as your pregnancy progresses. This hormone is actually excreted in the urine. So the first response pregnancy test, just as an example, they have antibodies that are specific to HCG hormones. Okay, the antibodies are coated with a chemical that binds to the HCG in your pee, leading to a positive test result. So if you're looking at the strip, you're going to see what's called a C for control. Control means that the actual pregnancy test is working appropriately. You should see a line on that C control. The next set of tests, which some actually label T for test, others are labeled other different things, but that is where you'll have a second line if you are pregnant. So remember that we're talking about HCG and the actual bindings of those antibodies, which literally come together. That gives it that blue color. So that is what you'll see when you see two blue lines. And now these days, they actually have what I like to call the Mac Daddy of pregnancy tests, and it actually says the word pregnant or not pregnant on there. So again, they still work by the exact same mechanism. The only difference between the old school, dollar pregnancy test that you get versus the one that are digital is because something digital after the P, the HCG, encompasses and binds to that actual antibody, that chemical equation or that chemical situation that's happened, it then triggers a digital response, and then that is actually what gives it the word. However, you may take a test and you actually might have a negative test, okay, when you are actually pregnant. And this is because you may have tested too early in your pregnancy when your HCG levels in your pee are very low. So you may want to wait a few more days before you repeat the test in such cases. Another thing that I do want to tell you, ladies, is always take a pregnancy test for the first urine of the day, meaning you wake up in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, get out your pregnancy test, okay? And no, I can't sing, but you get the whole point, is that when you go to pee, you have the most concentrated urine in the very beginning in the morning. And some people say, oh, we'll take another one, and they have you chug a bunch of water. Well, you're going to end up diluting your pee, and you might not actually get the exact same result. So once again, if you haven't gotten to your next missed period, and you're just curious to find out whether or not you're pregnant, you might not have enough HCG levels, and you might actually be pregnant. So how accurate are these pregnancy tests? Okay, the accuracy of these pregnancy tests depend on when the test is done. The result may be harmful if it's done very early in your pregnancy when HCG levels are not enough in the urine to be detected. And I don't mean harmful in the sense of hurting your baby. I mean harmful in the sense of you not knowing and then making decisions to go out drinking on girls' night or to go and, huff two packs of cigarettes or something like that. So all of the harmful things that you may be refraining from, or drinking a pot of coffee, for example. If you are pregnant, just assume if you're trying to get pregnant that everything in the body takes time for it to flush. And I'm going to use first response in this instance, most first response pregnancy tests are more than 99% accurate when taken a day before your expected period. I'm going to say that again. Most first response pregnancy tests are more than 99% accurate when taken a day before your expected period. So they actually now have pregnancy tests that are good up to 3 days before, because they actually have a better chemical binding that is able to detect less amounts of HCG. So that's what differentiates the different tests. Again, if you are a person that is extremely regular, you also may want to consider waiting because your cycle might be a little bit chaotic or off. Another thing is if you're taking birth control, sometimes women don't actually get bleeding when they're taking birth control, and you could still be pregnant. I'm a perfect example times 2. So again, the accuracy of these tests depends on and decrease, right, with accuracy when it's done earlier and earlier before your expected pregnancy. So 60% accurate when done 5 days earlier. 99% accurate if you wait the day before your next period, 60% accurate when done 5 days beforehand. And so the accuracy will decrease as you get farther and farther away, or, farther and farther away from what your period should be. So a negative result may occur if you fail to follow the manufacturer's instructions when the test kit expires. Number 1. Number 2, if it's exposed to sunlight, so like if you threw it in the back of your car, I live in Florida, for example, you chucked it back there and you totally were exposing it to light, or when there's too little or very low levels of HCG in your urine. Performing the test using your early morning urine when the concentration of HCG is high is recommended, and we already talked about that. So what should you do if you get a negative test result? A negative test result could indicate that you are pregnant or not pregnant. And I say that because you might just not have let enough time period pass before your HCG levels are up. But your body, if you're negative, has not produced a detectable amounts of HCG hormones. You should repeat the test 7 days after your expected period. If you still get a negative test result, then see your healthcare provider to find out what other causes of a missed period. But if you do get your period, it is your body's way of shedding its lining, meaning that no eggs have actually attached to the side wall. So a lot of times people think that pregnancy is just when the male sperm and the egg meet together, and that's it, then you're pregnant. Well, that's forming a zygote, but in order to be pregnant, it has to attach on the sidewalls. So if you're trying to get pregnant, you need inflammation. Do not take NSAIDs or like ibuprofen, Aleve, all those things. Don't take those medications up to 6 months before you're trying to get pregnant. So stick with Tylenol if you ever have like a headache or things like that. But it's important for you to understand that it's not just about the egg and the sperm meeting. It's also about your body grabbing on and holding on to that fertilized egg. So again, if you do have a negative test result, or there are indications of a positive test result, which we will get to, that can also mean that you're not pregnant. So let's talk about those now. So what happens if you get a positive test result? Congratulations! In most of the time, you are pregnant, and that your body has produced enough of that detectable pregnancy level of hormone called HCG. Most of the time, you will not be asked to go actually inside of your OBGYN until you are a certain number of weeks. So that magic number for a lot of OBGYNs is 8 weeks when they will first see you. So again, you are still pregnant. That is exciting. Another thing is I do want to quickly talk about, and we actually have an entire podcast dedicated to this, and this is more of like the sad note, I guess you could say, of pregnancy. But HCG levels are also indicative if you have a certain type of secreting tumor. Some people will actually take levels of human chorionic gonadotropin hormones, and some doctors will actually ask you to take a pregnancy test, and then they will do a blood work. Doesn't mean that you're pregnant. It means that there are tumors that secrete high levels of HCG, and that's what they're looking for. And then the second part that I do want to talk about is when you are in fact pregnant, but you have what's called a tubal pregnancy, also known as an ectopic pregnancy, meaning that it started happening, your pregnancy was fertilized and it started happening before it got into your uterus. The problem, as you know, is your tubes are very little. And so as it grows and grows and grows, the amount of HCG detected is extremely high. So it's like 16 times and then 100 times more, and the levels are super, super high. So if you are testing, let's say 2 weeks after your period, and all of a sudden it shows that you're pregnant, I would go in and see your GYN immediately because of the fact that you could potentially be having an ectopic or a tubal pregnancy, which means that in most cases, they usually have to remove the entire tube surgically in order to save the an emergency surgery for you. So I just want to quickly talk about that. If you have more questions about what an ectopic pregnancy is and different complications, I made an entire Pregnancy Pukeology podcast. Go check out episode 23 called Ectopic Pregnancy Complications. So when should you check if you are pregnant? When using a first response pregnancy test, and I'm only using that name brand because this is what the data has shown for them, you can check up to 5 days before your expected next period. And again, the period when your pregnancy would cause you to have the amount of detectable hormones. So how long does it take to see if you're pregnant? It's within 3 minutes if you're doing the test correctly. Now, another thing is, once you take the test, once you pee on the stick, put it away, right? Like put it on top of something. And the reason why I say that is because what happens if it's sloping? Meaning if it's sloping the wrong way and that gravity actually can't move your urine up. It's kind of like if you remember, if you're at like a restaurant and you scrunch together the straw wrapper, it's pieces of paper. You take that little piece of paper and it looks like a little caterpillar, and then you take water onto it, right? And you dip it on the one side. It has to traverse, or it has to go and move up. Well, if you do that on an angle, all of it's going to drip down and it's never going to get to the very end, which is where you'll have the result. So lie it someplace flat. So how accurate are these digital tests? Now we talk about Clear Blue digital tests as one of the first response pregnancy tests that are very accurate. It is more than 99% accurate when done a day before your expected period. Other than that, indicating whether or not you're pregnant or not, the Clear Blue digital tests also show pregnancy progress in a matter of weeks. So it's pretty cool. Since you've conceived, they do have really interesting things that are out there now these days where they can tell you exactly how many weeks based around the concentration of HCG, and the accuracy of the indicator of the Clear Blue digital test is 93% accurate. I wish they had all this cool stuff when I was pregnant with my very first. Well, now that let's get into some really funny pregnancy stories, because some of you are actually in fact pregnant, and others of you, you'll be in the club really soon.
Throwing up on a Tuesday? One puke story.
It was allergy season, but I love being outside. I was walking my dogs and felt the urge to sneeze. I had been experiencing morning sickness, so I was nervous to bend over. Well, the sneeze of the galaxy came over me, and I sneezed so hard I felt a stabbing pain in my back, so I hunched over and started vomiting. Let me tell you how painful sneezing on a pulled back is. Thanks to Mara, mom of 2, for that hilarious puke story. Don't we all love sciatica? Some of us will get it inside of pregnancy. And if you don't even know what that is, let me just tell you, episode 31, Sciatica During Pregnancy, explains all of the wonderful benefits of back pain during pregnancy. I knew I was choosing a natural birth, and I knew that it wasn't going to be easy, but I insisted on a water birth. My contractions were getting ridiculously painful, and I kept trying to meditate. All I could hear was my midwife say, "Just let it go." So I did, and puked inside of the tub. According to my husband, it looked like the Exorcist movie because I just opened my mouth and it poured out. I was in such pain that I didn't even try to stop it. It poured out like Nickelodeon slime. That TV station is banned from our house after my husband saw the scene of the birth of our beautiful daughter. Thanks, Jen Wash, JENNWASH, for that hilarious puke story. I've been going through active labor for over 2.5 hours and was feeling fatigued. My husband thought it would be funny if he put on the song, "Push It, Push It Real Good by Salt and Pepper to help really get into the next contraction. The only thing it did was cause me to puke all over the front of my belly. I guess I pushed so hard my insides wanted to come out. Let's just say I threw away that CD after the baby was born. Thanks Tiff Page for that hilarious puke story. Do you have a hilarious story that you just can't wait to share it with me? Send me it. Pukeology, Puklogy at nomonausea.com, nomonausea.com, or tweet me at Pukeology so we can all have a good laugh.
Tips and tricks to stop the up chuckle that you need.
So you want to know how to make a baby boy? Or what about how to make a baby girl? So let's go from pregnancy test to ovulation test, okay? So ovulation test, this would happen way before you have your period. And we're going to use an example of an ovulation test that comes with 20 test strips, okay? It usually will give you a yes or no answer if you're ovulating. The way that it works is it detects the amount of levels of luteinizing hormone, which we'll shorten as LH. Now, they also have Clear Blue Easy is another one that has an advanced digital test that also tells you when you are most fertile, like those 4 days that you're most fertile, because surges of serotonin 3 glucuronide, which is E3G, this part is actually able to show you when you're the most fertile. It's really great for people like me who are planners, and it will map out your 4 most fertile days. So you can lock yourself in the bedroom and make like the Ace Ventura movie, a weembo up, a weembo up. I hope some of you guys got it, because if not, you're millennials and you're too young to know what movie Ace Ventura was from. But it's basically your indication if you're ovulating, hey, let's make a baby. So you have the highest chances of making a baby boy during those 4 days when your eggs are fresh off the tubal train. As stated before, the boy sperm are better swimmers than the girl sperm, and they can get to the eggs faster. So if you're trying to make a boy, those first 4 days are the best time frame. Okay, actually the first 3, I would say. Now, in little girls, right? Girl swimmers that are the sperm is what I'm talking about. They tend to be slower, so they can't get to the egg as quick, but they don't die off as quick as the boys. So they just stay there swimming around for about 2 days even after. So again, the egg has time. It finally jumps off the tubal train and it comes all the way down to the uterus. And finally, those little swimmers are able to go boop and end up lying there waiting. So they're kind of like, think of kids when they have a piñata. The boys are always the ones that are smacking, doing all the work to get the first bit of candy as it comes out, and they reach out in the sky and they go to grab it. And the little girls are those smart ones and wait until the candy falls. And then they end up getting it because the boys are now too tired. And so that's exactly how boys versus girls are made. Although morning sickness is not the ultimate determinant of sex, and some people always say, oh, if you have a lot of morning sickness, you definitely have a insert the gender here. But some studies have actually shown that morning sickness of different times of the day is associated with a greater chance of sex of one versus the other. A Scandinavian study found that girls in utero excrete 9% more estrogen, thus leading to more nausea during the first trimester. So those darn little girls, I'm just kidding, mine is beautiful, but she caused me to have horrible morning sickness, and hence why no more nausea bands were invented. So to help stop your worst upset stomach in seconds, especially for those mamas who are pregnant with baby girls. So testosterone secretion increases steadily throughout the pregnancy with no major spikes, unlike the girl embryos. So this has also been proven in a majority of hyperemesis gravidarum patients, which are the ones that have extreme morning sickness. They usually require hospitalization, and they're usually carrying girls versus boys. So if you feel like puking all day, every day, learn more about hyperemesis gravidarum, which is HG in Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, episode 6, called Severe Morning Sickness. Now, what is the science behind actually making a boy? And here's some real tips. Now, I'm going to say making a boy, but you can always reverse these for a girl. Number 1, have your husband wear have your husband wear boxers versus tighty whities. So let me talk about it. Men who wear tighter underwear keep their sack warmer and tend to have more girls. But if you want a boy, throw on some boxers on your husband and it gives your balls some natural AC flow, right? So it gives it like a natural AC. Again, tighty whities for girls, boxers for boys. That's something easy for you to remember. Number 2, sex positions. Deep penetration will give boy sperm a head start. So if you want to have a boy, try doggy style, the standing up kind, or straddling. Any of those will help to really utilize gravity to help you to get to the spot where they need to be. And then number 3, ladies, you must orgasm before your man to make a baby boy. Ooh, doesn't that one sound good? Anyway, so boy sperm survive in a basic environment. The vagina is extremely acidic in nature, and until a woman has an orgasm, the orgasmic juices are very alkaline, which means basic, and helps to keep the boy sperm alive. Ladies, your man should make you come before them, and multiple times, may I add, because we can, but is even more important when making a baby and when having a certain type of sex that you want, that he pleases you first so that you guys can have a boy. So wasn't that interesting, learning all about pregnancy tests and finding out how accurate that they really are, 99% accurate or 60% accurate 5 days before your missed period, and even some really cool natural tips as to what you can do, you and your husband, to make a baby boy or girl, all in today's Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, episode 63, How Accurate Are Pregnancy Tests Anyway? If you love Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, let me know. Give me 5 stars or hearts for likes. And don't forget to download this episode, but more importantly, share it with all your pregnancy friends. Thanks again for listening to Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, episode 63, all about pregnancy tests finally revealed. Can't wait to hear from you guys in the next 2 weeks. See you then.
Pukeology Podcast. Edutainment at its finest.